Hello everyone, good evening. Who is ready for the weekend? Are you like me and I try to use Saturday and Sunday afternoons as catch-up days? Some weekends are slow and some weekends are so fast it's like a full workload is packed in just those few days. Well, that's the way it will be for me this weekend. However, I'm enjoying reading the book of Exodus and I hope that you are as well, and we'll continue doing that tonight and through the weekend. Tonight, we have read Exodus chapter 10 through 12, and as we get into chapter 10, we pick up right where we left off last night from chapter 9, and the plagues of judgment are coming down hard on the evil Egyptian Pharaoh and his people. In chapter 10, God sends two more plagues as judgments and perhaps even motivation for Pharaoh to let the people of Israel go free. The first plague in chapter 10, God sends locusts on the land of Egypt, and they are everywhere. They ate all the fruits and herbs in the land and left no greenery, and they covered just the whole face of the land. And Pharaoh finally, he asked Moses and Aaron, remove the locusts, and again he said that he would allow the people of Israel to leave and follow their Lord in return for removing this plague of locusts. But just like the other times, after they asked the Lord to do so, once again, Pharaoh changed his mind and he did not allow the people of Israel to leave. Later in Exodus chapter 10, God sends yet another plague. The plague of darkness overcame the land of Egypt for 3 whole days. And it was so dark that the Egyptian people could not even see one another. Can you imagine? Not even seeing each other. However, all the houses of the people of Israel, there was light. God did not allow the people of Israel to suffer the plagues that he was sending upon the Egyptians. Isn't it amazing to think about how God takes care of his people? Everyone else will suffer, but God makes special arrangements for his people here. And I think that he does that for us today. Now, I don't think that we could say that if you're a Christian or if you're a follower of Christ, that you'll not suffer. Actually, the Bible tells us the opposite of that. In the physical realm, we're going to suffer, but Christians are blessed spiritually with things that truly matter, more so than any other people on planet Earth. We have a sense of purpose and understanding that the world just doesn't understand. They think we're crazy when, in fact, we understand the bigger picture. We see God's picture. The point is that God always takes care of his people, and he always will. Now, let's go back to Egypt. Still, Pharaoh, after these 2 plagues, did not let the Hebrew captives go free. Exodus chapter 11 is mainly about the last plague and the most devastating plague that God delivered to the land of Egypt. Moses went to Pharaoh and he explained to him that at midnight the last plague would descend upon Egypt, which was that all the firstborn children would die. This included all of the firstborns, from the son of Pharaoh to the firstborn child of the lowest slave. God even said that the firstborns of the cattle would not be spared. Moses told Pharaoh that there would be a terrible cry throughout all the land when all the firstborns die. He went on to say that the Israelites would be spared by God and all their children would remain safe because they were God's people. Even with this news, the Lord still hardened Pharaoh's heart and he would not let the people go. Chapter 12 gives us the record of the Passover event, this last plague, that eventually would become one of the most important feasts that the Jews observed, and the feast for which our weekly observance of the Lord's Supper is based upon. In Exodus chapter 12, we see that God is ready to follow through with his promise of killing every firstborn in the land. And God told the Israelites that the way that he would care for them, here he is taking care of his people again, the way he would take care of them is for them to obey exactly what he commanded. Now, that is still just as important now as it was back then. God told the Israelites, he gave them very explicit instructions on how this lamb must be chosen and killed and cooked. For one thing, it must be roasted and eaten before the morning. They also had to put some of the blood from the lamb on their doorpost. This act, God said, would save them from having their children involved in the slaughter and their house destroyed. God also instructed them to eat unleavened bread, or bread that did not have any yeast in it. He told them to eat with sandals on and a staff in their hand. Why? Well, I think that this symbolizes just how quickly they were going to be getting out of Egypt. No time for yeast in your bread. You've got your shoes on and you've got your walking stick in hand and you are ready to go. In the meantime, the Lord killed all the firstborn just like He did that night. And there was a great cry in all of the land. There was not one home in the land of Egypt where someone was not dead. Pharaoh, in his own distress, got up in the middle of the night when all of this was happening, and he ordered all the Israelites to leave their home, leave the land of Egypt as soon as possible. Exodus chapter 12 states that over 600,000 men, aside from women and children, migrated out of Egypt that very night after living there for 430 years. Isn't that an amazing story? And it sets the stage for all of Israel's history and even pours over significance into Christianity. Because in Christianity, we know that Jesus is the sacrificial lamb with no blemish. And it is His blood that is spilled that saves us. And each week when we eat the bread and we drink the wine, we remember how we too are delivered from bondage and hastily exit the darkness of sin and enjoy the salvation that is only found in Him. Now that is amazing. This is an important chapter for us to understand and to read and to remember even in our own lives. It sets the stage for exactly who we are as God's people today. I want to encourage you to read Exodus chapter 13 and 15 for tomorrow. I love you so much, and good night.